Hello everyone, welcome back to Storytime. We are currently reading The Willigrews 2 by Terry Tarbox, and Terry is a local author who has very kindly said that we can read his stories for Storytime, and his book is illustrated by his niece and her name is Wendy. Now, yesterday we read the first part of The Willigrews and the Mysterious Egg, which is co-written by Jack Wheatley, don't want to get his name wrong, and they have found two small creatures that come from a different planet, but one of the Willigrews has seen some strange lights in the sky. So let's read on to find out what those lights might be. So this is part 2. Bromley looked up and what he saw sent a chill through most of his body. His left foot seemed to be coping all right. Orange lights in the sky. There must have been about a dozen of them. Was this an invasion? Had the Yippets come looking for Georgie and Georgette? The lights then disappeared behind some trees in the distance. This may be what we were dreading, warned Bromley. We must take a look to see where they landed. Why don't we ask Duffy to go? Asked Crowfin. I think it is only fair to explain that Duffy Scrunnock is a small bird that befriended the Willigrews in another story, The Willigrews and the Mighty Stump of Doom. This twitchy little character now lives in Willigrue with his new friends and only goes back to his own family for important meetings and feasts. Good thinking, Crowford's old chap, replied Bromley. Let's find him. They soon found Duffy roosting for the night in a tree, his head tucked under his wing. Wake up, Duffy, urged Bromley. We need your assistance. What? Exclaimed the startled Duffy. It can't be morning already. It's not very light yet. Oh, no, he had a voice. I did a voice for him, didn't I, in the other stories? Let's see if I can remember. What? Exclaimed the startled Duffy. It can't be morning already. It's not very light yet. I think that was the voice. Don't, whatever you do, start your morning chorus or you'll wake the whole village, Bromley added. Cool, that's a relief, said Duffy. That always gives me such a headache. I take it that you need my avian expertise. Crowfin explained about the lights in the sky and asked Duffy to fly over to take a look. In addition, to be careful, as this mission could be dangerous. Duffy set off straight away, flying upwards until he disappeared behind the trees and out of sight. Bromley and Crowfin decided to go back to Bromley's house and have some breakfast. When they got there, Bromley prepared a pot of chickweed tea and a couple of bowls of chickweed flakes. They both washed their hands and dried them thoroughly, which is what Willigrews always did to avoid diseases and other nasty things. That is very good, Willigrews. We all need to remember to wash our hands. You see, there had been quite a lot of sneezing in the village lately, and if you read the Willigrews and the Big Sneeze, you will know what a problem that caused. Therefore, Bromley posted a sign on the notice board at the meeting hall, telling everyone to sneeze into a tissue and put it straight in the bin. A couple of hours passed before Duffy returned. Yill spotted him flying over the trees and watched him until he landed on the ground at her feet. That was a bit hairy, said Duffy, twitching as usual. Dangerous journey? Asked Yill. No, Duffy replied. I've just seen a long-haired yelp snapper sitting in a treetop. It was really hairy, even for a long-haired yelp snapper. By now, several other Willigrews and the two Mardronians had gathered around Duffy, curious to find out what he had seen. What have you seen? They all asked together. See, I told you. It doesn't look good, Duffy replied. Some strange metallic craft have landed on the other side of the forest. There must be about 20 of them. I sat watching for a while until a door on one opened and a spidery-looking creature with 4 legs came out. On its back, it carried what looked like a tortoise. Several others followed it out, and when the other doors started to open, I decided to take a closer look. However, as I landed on a low branch near them, they must have spotted me, and one of them fired some sort of light ray from the tortoise on its back. I decided it was too dangerous to hang about, so I flew back here to report my findings. Sounds like the Yippets have come looking for Georgie and Georgette, said Bromley, looking knowingly at Crowfin. I think we should call a meeting straight away. Just then, Roosin pointed towards Duffy and exclaimed, Where is your left wing gone? Duffy looked down and sure enough his left wing had disappeared. Eek! He cried. It's gone, but I can still feel it. It's become invisible. squealed a terrified Georgette. "The Yippet must have hit you with a light ray." "Don't worry, my little bouncy friend," said Duffy reassuringly. "It doesn't hurt, although I am not as symmetrical as I was. And I was very proud of my symmetry. We birds take great pride in being symmetrical." Longstint, Roosin and Dora Dingbat volunteered to stand guard on the village border in case the Yippets appeared without warning. The rest went back to the meeting hall. Bromgley was first to speak, saying, "Fellow Willigrews, it looks as though our village is about to be attacked by unfriendly creatures from another planet. This could be the greatest threat we have ever faced, but I know you will defend Willigrew bravely and prevent the Yippets from harming our Mardronian guests. Mardronian. I'm going to struggle with that word. Now, I would like you all to put on your thinking caps and see if you can come up with some ideas." Everyone proceeded to put on their thinking caps, which were little pointy numbers in a nice shade of turquoise. Everyone, that is, except Rebeccah, who had forgotten his, so he had to draw a picture of it and stick it to his forehead. In fact, it was Rebeccah who came up with the first idea. "Why don't we just run away and come back when the Yippets have gone? I don't want to disappear. I won't know where I am. What if I wake up and I find I'm not there?" The others, knowing that Rebeccah was a bit of a wimp, laughed at his suggestion. Crowfin said that Willigrews never run away, although they might make odd strategic withdrawal. Bromgley, as understanding as ever, reassured Rebeccah, saying that he wouldn't be in any danger. "It's all right, Rebeccah," added Longstint. "You can hide behind me." "Cheers, mate," said a relieved Rebeccah. The next idea was a bit more sensible and came from Father, who suggested that they all hold up mirrors to reflect the light rays back at the Yippets, in the hope that it would make them disappear. "Great idea," said Crowfin, "although I see one big snag. Where are we going to find enough mirrors for everyone?" Somebody suggested using shiny vegetables, but the others did not take that seriously. Bromgley could see no other solution to the problem, so asked everyone who owned a mirror to bring it to the meeting hall as soon as possible. "The Willigrews who don't have mirrors will just have to stand behind the ones who do," he suggested. After much dashing about, running up and down, and bumping into each other, all the Willigrews arrived back at the meeting hall. Those with mirrors held them up, and those without mirrors didn't, although one held up a shiny courgette, still thinking this was a good idea. Bromgley stood on the stage, and when everyone had quietened down, he said, "OK, everyone, this is the plan. We plan to use mirrors to reflect the laser beams back at the Yippets, so making them disappear instead. I know this idea seems a bit silly and may not work, but it's all anyone could think of at the time. We will assemble on the edge of the village by the chickweed beds at midnight. Just one more thing. As you know, it is still snowing outside, so wrap up warm and take a flask of tea with you. Father has made a batch of jangleberry jam sandwiches, so nobody should go hungry. See you all at midnight, and good luck, little Willigrews." Just before midnight, Bromgley and Yill joined up with Dora, Roosin and Longstint at the edge of the village. They had nothing to report, as everything had been quiet, with no sign of the Yippets. Pretty soon a large crowd had gathered, and Bromgley sorted them into ranks. The ones with mirrors were to stand at the front, and those without were to stand behind them. As they sat and waited, Longstint turned to Yill and asked, "Do you think it is possible to find something that isn't lost?" Yill replied, looking a bit puzzled, That's a strange question. What made you think of that at this present moment in time?" "Well," said Longstint, "I often look around and see things lying about. If I see them, I must have found them. But are they lost if someone else is looking for them? If, however, nobody is looking for them, they can't be lost. Therefore, I must have found something that isn't lost." Yill was just about to tell Longstint that he had answered his own question when a shout went up from Bromgley. "Lights in the trees," he called. "Looks like the Yippets are here." All eyes turned to the forest, and sure enough, through the dark night appeared beams of orange lights, eerily flickering as the trees blocked them. The lights created huge moving shadows that seemed alive against the snowy ground. Everything went strangely quiet as the Willigrews stood in a double line facing the danger. The silence did not last long, though, and the Yippets broke cover and appeared at the edge of the forest. They gave out No, they gave out a loud, weird, scary sound, half song and half scream. La-hoo! The trees shook, the ground shook, and so did the Willigrews. The lights eventually found our little green army, frightened but standing firm, awaiting instructions from Bromley. The Yippets approached, slowly at first, but seemed to gather speed as they advanced, their weapons pointing straight at the Willigrews. "Mirrors ready," shouted Bromley, and all the mirrors and one courgette were held aloft. Bromley then called to his little band, "Steady the Willigrews," although he knew in his heart that nobody would run. All too soon the deadly beams were zapping the Willigrews, who all stood firm, holding their mirrors in defiance. Disaster struck. The plan hadn't worked. Instead of reflecting the beams back onto the Yippets, the mirrors plus the courgette just disappeared. The Yippets stopped firing for a moment, probably recharging their tortoises, then came forward for the last deadly attack. Bromley feared the worst, told his tribe to keep calm and be very brave. "If we have to go, we will go together like true Willigrews," he said, putting his arm around Yill. Then they all held hands and marched towards the Yippets, knowing this would be the last adventure they would ever have. Then, to everyone's surprise, a little green flash broke ranks and ran towards the chickweed beds. It was Longstint. Surely Longstint wouldn't run away, thought the others. Not our brave Longstint. But then they saw him grab a big handful of chickweed and proceeded to run towards the Yippets, shouting, "You won't beat the Willigrews!" "Oh no," cried Roosin. "Longstint's lost the plot." "I'm confused," said Crowfin. Nobody was surprised at that. Weaving and ducking to avoid any rays, Longstint sprinted towards the Yippets. On reaching the first one, he shoved the chickweed into the mouth of the tortoise on its back. The tortoise munched on the chickweed, saying, "Yum, that's delicious. May I have some more, please?" Tortoises, in my experience, are always polite. I can say honestly that I have never met a rude tortoise, although I did meet a terrapin once that stuck its tongue out at me. Well, I did call it a turtle. "Help yourself, chum, it's over there," said Longstint, pointing to the chickweed beds. With that, the tortoise rolled off the Yippet's back and headed for some more grub. Before long, the other tortoises followed. First one, then a few more, then all of them. Although some landed on their backs and had to be helped by the Willigrews, they were soon burrowing in the snow to get to the yummy chickweed. All the Willigrews' eyes turned to the Yippets to see what they would do without their weapons. Well, to everyone's surprise, they didn't do much at all. In fact, they all looked as confused as Crowfin on a bad day. One Yippet did the la-hoo thing again, but this didn't seem as frightening, as now they had no weapons. The first to approach the Yippets was Longstint. He stood directly in front of one and said, "What are you going to do now, old mechanical spidery thing?" "Not programmed for what are you going to do now, old mechanical spidery thing," said the Yippet. "This model is not capable of rational thought. Model capable of rational thought available on manufacturer's website. Special offer this week only. Interest-free finance. Subject to status. Terms and conditions apply." "It's a computerised robot," cried Longstint, turning to the other Willigrews with a look of surprise. "They must be harmless without their tortoises." Crowfin then noticed they had lids on their backs and decided to have a look inside. On opening the lid, he saw a switch which was marked on and off. Still feeling a bit nervous, he flicked the switch to the off position. The Yippet stopped moving completely and made no more sound. Seeing this, Bromley instructed everyone to switch off all the Yippets. So now you have probably realised the Willigrews had 3 problems. How to get Georgie and Georgette back to their planet, how to make sure they were safe from the other Yippets on their planet, and what to do with the empty Yippets in Willigrew. Bromley, as he usually does in such situations, called a meeting at the meeting hall. He decided to hold the meeting on the day after tomorrow. If he called it tomorrow, it would be tomorrow, if you see what I mean, and if he called it on the day after tomorrow, it would be in 2 days' time. In the end, he decided to call it on Wednesday, which was the day after Tuesday and 2 days before Friday. A notice was pinned to the notice board, a pretty sensible place to put it, which read, "A meeting to discuss our next moves regarding Georgie and Georgette will be held on Wednesday at 9:30. Would everyone bring their thinking caps? We suggest the blue caps with the green stripes in order to keep up with the latest fashion. Refreshments will be served. As this meeting is very important, all further notices are postponed until further notice. Whew! I wonder what's going to happen. I wonder what they are going to do with the other Yippets. Will they work without their tortoise guns? I don't know. Come back tomorrow, 2 o'clock, and we will carry on reading the tale of the Willigrews and the mysterious eggs, and we will find out what happens. So we'll see you then. Bye-bye.